Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to see you again in today's news program. Here, we and you will share and interact with the latest news and hottest events that are of interest to the public at home and abroad. Details will be available shortly.
The German newspaper DACA recently quoted an anonymous source as saying that 5 Russian UAVs that were shot down in Poland recently may have been targeting a NATO base. The 7-hour incident occurred when the Polish, Dutch, and Italian air forces scrambled to intercept a wave of UAVs flying into Polish territory. This is considered the first time there has been direct contact between NATO and Moscow. An unnamed NATO officer told DA that the Russian UAVs flew straight to the base, but the specific location of the base was not disclosed. According to the newspaper, the base is suspected of being a target related to the transportation of weapons to Ukraine. The incident did not cause any casualties or damage, but about 19 drones, including the Beara type, acting as decoys, violated Polish airspace during Russia's attack on Ukraine. According to initial information, 2 UAVs were shot down by Dutch F-35 fighters during the interception operation and crashed under more mysterious circumstances. The anonymous source also said the above details were shared at a security meeting on the evening of 10th, based on the preliminary results of the internal investigation of the 3 sides. The Telegraph noted that it could not independently verify this report. There is also a possibility that the UAVs were heading towards the RZ oil airport, an area near the Ukrainian border and currently the main hub for transporting aid to the conflict-torn country. The incident caused a temporary disruption of operations at the RZ airport.
On September 11th, Alexander Bovik, a 30-year-old pilot of the 39th Tactical Air Brigade of Ukraine, died during a combat mission in the Jabaria area. According to the announcement, the pilot, Major Borovik, was on a combat mission at around 13:30 local time when the incident occurred. The announcement said the cause and circumstances leading to the pilot's death are under investigation. We would like to express our deepest condolences to Alexander's family and friends. The Ukrainian side did not specify the condition of the Su-27 he was piloting when the incident occurred. Fighter pilots are considered valuable assets of any military because it usually takes a lot of money and effort to train someone with combat ability and experience. The loss of the pilot is considered negative news for the KF in the war with Russia because it will take a lot of time to compensate. The X-27 is a twin-engine fighter. The Su-27 is a highly maneuverable aircraft developed by the Soviet Union's Sukhoi Design Bureau. It was originally designed to counter American fourth-generation fighters such as the F-14 Tomcat and F-15 Eagle. It has a range of 3,530 kilometers, is heavily armed, has advanced avionics, and has excellent maneuverability. Built primarily for air superiority missions, the Su-27 and its later variants are capable of performing almost all types of air combat missions. It was officially put into service with the Soviet Air Force in 1985. Ukraine no longer has many X-27s in its inventory, and it has no capacity to produce more of this type of aircraft. So any loss Ukraine suffers from the number 27 will be irreparable.
Late last month, the Russian government approved a strategic document that could fundamentally reshape the country's transport and logistics landscape and strengthen Russia's position in global markets. This master plan for the development of seaport infrastructure is designed to last until 2036 and includes the construction of 25 new water transport facilities, including 17 modern seaports. The program is aimed not only at modernizing the existing transport system, but also at creating new transport corridors that will help Russia reach potential markets and reduce its dependence on traditional routes to the west. The plan prioritizes the development of Russia's Far East, the Arctic, and the Northwest. These are seen as key hubs for strengthening foreign economic relations and expanding export opportunities. This approach is directly linked to the changing geopolitical environment and ongoing sanctions pressure on Russia. With limited access to European ports, Moscow is focusing on diversifying trade routes and establishing new logistics chains aimed at the Asian and Middle Eastern markets. The first phase, which will be put into operation in 2027, reflects the ambitious pace of the program. Key projects in this phase include the Baltic Shipyard and Terminal in St. Petersburg with a capacity of 5 million tons to handle the growing cargo flow in the Baltic region, the port of Sabeta on the Yaman Peninsula, a large terminal for the transfer of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, and gas condensate with a capacity of 9.7 million tons will play a key role in expanding energy logistics and reaching new markets. In Primorsky Oblast, 2 new facilities will be put into operation at the port of Posts, including a 10 million ton bulk terminal and a 500,000 TEU container terminal. These projects will become important links in integrating Russia with the Asia-Pacific economies, where trade volumes continue to grow steadily. In 2028, 5 notable projects will be implemented, the largest of which is the Vanana terminal at the port of Vakhny with a planned capacity of 17 million tons, which will significantly increase coal exports to Asian countries, including China, South Korea, and Japan. Other projects include a multifunctional terminal at PV Chikhaska with a capacity of 1.96 million tons, a specialized terminal for liquid chemicals and fertilizers in Ustluga with a capacity of 8 million tons, a container terminal in Vladivostok with a capacity of 322,900 tons, and the Nikonskoye terminal at the port of Petrovo-Kamchatsky with a capacity of 15,000 tons. These facilities are designed to serve both international trade and domestic distribution of goods. By 2020, the focus of the program will be strongly shifted to the Russian Far East. 3 major projects will be completed. The Primorsky Metallurgical Plant Terminal with a capacity of 2.1 million tons, the Ingapot Coal Terminal in Vanino with a capacity of 30 million tons, and the Aurora Marine Pop Oil Terminal in Primorsky Krai with a capacity of 10 million tons. This last project is particularly important for ensuring stable supplies of oil and oil products to Asian markets. In 2030, the second phase of the Aurora Coal Terminal will be put into operation, adding 25 million tons of capacity. In addition, a multifunctional terminal with a capacity of 24.3 million tons and a grain terminal in Vysotsky with a capacity of 4 million tons will be inaugurated. These facilities will significantly expand Russia's export potential in both energy and agricultural products. The Arctic region receives special attention as a strategic priority. In 2032, a large LNG transshipment complex will start operating in the Yura Bay of the port of Mua. With a capacity of 20.4 million tons, the project will boost LNG exports to both Asian and European markets, providing greater flexibility in the context of changing global energy dynamics. The final phase of the program will conclude in 2036 with the completion of a 550,000-ton offshore oil terminal at US Vladivostok. This facility will be a key element in the long-term strategy of transforming Primory into a major hub for global energy trade. In addition to building new capacities, the plan also includes a large-scale modernization of existing facilities. In 2002, the upgrade of the Vanino-Shanugin terminal in the port of Vanino will be completed. Next up is the modernization of the Dantagon coal terminal by 2030. These upgrades will add a total of 40 million tons of capacity, significantly boosting Russia's coal exports. By 2028, the construction of the locks of the Gorodit hydroelectric complex near NNY Noborot and the construction of the Begevsky hydroelectric complex on the Don River are also planned. These projects are important for improving inland logistics, reducing pressure on key rail and road routes, and ensuring a more balanced distribution of goods.
In the new conditions of the shift to the east, Russia has expressed its desire to actively develop trade relations and strengthen economic cooperation with ASEAN. Prospects for further strengthening business cooperation, linked to joint cooperation in important areas such as energy and transport, healthcare and tourism, digital transformation, technology and innovation. This was the conclusion of the Russia-ASEAN thematic discussion within the framework of the 10th Eastern Economic Forum (EF) held recently in Vladivostok. President of the Russian Chamber of Commerce and Industry Soji Katan, in his role as moderator of the discussion, pointed out that ASEAN with 10 member states is one of the most dynamically developing regions today, attracting the attention of all leading economies. This is also the region with the third largest population in the world with nearly 680 million people and a steadily developing economy. According to the World Bank, Southeast Asia's digital economy has now exceeded $200 billion and is likely to reach $1 trillion by 2030. These are huge numbers, and in fact this is a very large and promising market for all participants. At the discussion, Mr. Sunban Cohen, deputy chairman of the State Duma of the Russian parliament, said that trade turnover between Russia and ASEAN countries has increased by 5.8%. Since 2015, bilateral trade has increased by about 70%, and in terms of geographical location, cooperation with the Asia-Pacific region is a development potential for the Viet Dong region. Agreeing with the above viewpoint, Cambodian Deputy Minister of Commerce Lyman Park also said that economic cooperation and diplomatic relations between Russia and Southeast Asian countries are constantly developing and reaching new heights. In particular, economic and trade cooperation between Asian countries and Russia is witnessing continuous growth. However, the participants in the discussion also acknowledged the significant shortcomings in cooperation due to Western sanctions and restrictions, especially in the fields of logistics, insurance, and access to international finance. One of the issues that was discussed in depth was the creation of new payment channels to expand trade relations between Russia and ASEAN. Chairman of the Russian ASEAN Business Council Ivan Pulyakov said that the parties have now found a series of sustainable payment mechanisms without any significant restrictions and delays. At the discussion, Sberbank introduced the GigaChat artificial intelligence model to support national sovereignty in cyberspace. According to the Russian side, GigaChat is one of the few models in the world that can be installed and customized for each country. Because it does not depend on a cloud platform located outside of Russia, GigaChat can be provided to any ASEAN country that is trained in all national characteristics, national languages, cultures, and relevant traditions. Mr. Nikita Kondrativ, director of the Department of Multilateral Economic Cooperation and Special Projects of the Russian Ministry of Economic Development, said that developing free trade zones is a very important direction of this ministry. Currently, Russia is cooperating with Vietnam and has completed cooperation with Indonesia, and will expand to many other countries in ASEAN.
On September 11th, Belarus released 52 prisoners of various nationalities after a call from U.S. President Donald Trump. According to information from the U.S. Embassy in Vilnius, the released people went to LVA with the U.S. delegation to negotiate the release of the prisoners. Earlier, President Trump called on Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to release the detainees. Later, Belarus confirmed the release of these people. In return, Washington will ease sanctions on the international airline Belavia, allowing the airline to maintain and purchase spare parts for its fleet, including Boeing aircraft. The state news agency Bararas Binta said that among those released were 14 foreign nationals from Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, France, Britain, and Germany. Thelva said that those released were opposition figures, journalists, and protesters. Bint quoted John C., the lawyer who headed the U.S. delegation, as saying that Trump had told Lukashenko that Washington wanted to reopen the U.S. embassy in Minsk. In addition, Mr. Kola had previously handed Mr. Lukashenko a letter written in English from Trump signed by Donald. Mr. Cole described Trump's signing as a rare act of personal friendship. Mr. Lukashenko said that if Trump said he was ready to accept all the newly released prisoners, then let's try to reach a global agreement. As Mr. Trump always said, a big deal. In addition, the Belarusian president praised the U.S. leader for his efforts to find a peace agreement in Ukraine. Binta quoted Mr. Lukashenko as repeating Mr. Trump's statement that he had solved 6-7 global conflicts. Our main task is to stand with Mr. Trump and help him in his mission to establish peace. Mr. Trump said he planned to meet Mr. Lukashenko and described him as a very respected man, a strong leader.
On September 11th, in an interview with TOFM Radio, Interior Minister Bansky announced that the country's border with Belarus would be closed indefinitely. I would like to note that this is not a temporary border closure, he said. During the JAPIT 2025 exercise, the border is closed indefinitely and will only be reopened after full security can be ensured. However, Minister Kowinski stressed that the Polish authorities have no plans to close the border even for a day if it is not necessary. Previously, on May 9, Polish Prime Minister Donaldus announced the closure of the border with Belarus in the context of the upcoming joint Russian-Belarusian military exercises. Mr. T said that for national security reasons, we will close the border with Belarus, including the railway crossings related to the JAP exercises. At midnight on 11 May, Belarus is a key ally of Russia. The JAPIT 2025, West 2025 exercises are scheduled to take place from 12 to May 16. Belarus, bordering Poland, Litva, and Latvia, all NATO members to the west and north. While Vietnam borders Ukraine, the Zapad exercises are held about every 4 years. Russia and Belarus insist that these are defensive exercises. The already tense relations between Poland and Belarus have deteriorated since Russia launched a military operation in Ukraine in 2022. Poland has closed most of its border crossings with Belarus, with only 2 remaining in operation. Meanwhile, Mr. Tusk said Polish and Allied forces will conduct their own military exercises in Poland, with an expected participation of about 30,000 soldiers.
On September 11th, Ukrainian military intelligence special forces attacked and disabled a key ship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet near Novorossiysk with a UAV attack. According to Ukrainian military intelligence, the attack on September 10th hit a multipurpose support ship of the MPSV-07 project. According to Ukraine, Russia has 4 of these ships in the entire fleet. The ship, which was commissioned in 2015, is worth about $60 million. Video released by Ukrainian military intelligence shows the UAV targeting the cockpit, destroying navigation and communication systems, as well as electronic reconnaissance systems. According to Ukraine, the ship will be out of service after the attack and will need repairs. At the time of the attack, the Russian ship was conducting electronic reconnaissance and patrolling the entrance to the Novorossiysk Bay, where Moscow has redeployed most of the Black Sea Fleet after recent attacks by Ukraine and the Crimean Peninsula. Over the past year, Ukraine has stepped up its use of UAVs and domestically built USVs in the Black Sea, claiming several successful attacks on the Russian Navy. A few days earlier, Ukrainian military intelligence released a video of another operation carried out by the PRAR Special Forces in Qum. On September 1st, Ukraine announced that it had used UAVs to attack the Russian air base in Hvadsk near Svaropol, destroying at least 2 8-wheeled helicopters worth $20 to $30 million. In the Black Sea, Russia is considered to have an overwhelming advantage over Ukraine in terms of military potential, but the chaos use of USVs and UAVs has posed many challenges for Moscow in this asymmetrical war. In May this year, the Russian Navy began forming specialized regiments to integrate USVs and unmanned underwater vehicles into its fleets, marking a clear step towards modernizing its naval capabilities. Later, the chairman of the Russian Maritime Council, Nikolai Puzep, announced plans to continue strengthening the Black Sea Fleet with additional USVs, warships, and aircraft in the coming years. Russia has also developed a series of new UAVs and US, increasing the combat capabilities of the Black Sea Fleet. Recently, Russia announced for the first time a US with optical cable capable of effectively dealing with electronic warfare. In particular, this USV is capable of carrying many small UAVs, diversifying Russia's maritime attack capabilities.
For centuries, the world's largest land area has always been Russia's greatest asset, making the country almost unconquerable, ensuring an endless supply of both human and material resources, and maintaining its superpower status for generations. However, there are many signs that this has been changing since the war in Ukraine began. In recent months, the Ukrainian military has launched a long-range offensive across Russian territory. Taking advantage of the fact that Moscow cannot defend its entire vast airspace, Ukraine has carried out UAV attacks on Russian oil refineries since the early stages of the conflict. But the intensity of the attacks has increased significantly in the past month, causing growing damage. According to Reuters, by the end of August this year, Ukraine had disrupted at least 17% of Russia's oil refining capacity, while The Economist estimated the figure could be as high as 20%. An expert from the Henry Jackson Society, a transatlantic foreign policy and national security think tank based in the UK. Mr. David Kurichenko believes that Ukraine's attack campaign has caused a fuel crisis in Russia. In the Kurinsky district of the Kurin Peninsula, the shortage of N92 gasoline forced local authorities on the 25th to announce a halt to sales. Some companies on the Kum Peninsula only sell fuel to those with discount vouchers or special cards, the wholesale price of N95 gasoline on the SPECB International Commercial Exchange rose to a record high in the middle of last month, 50% higher than in January this year, as demand surged because Russian farmers needed gasoline for harvesting machinery while many car drivers took long summer road trips. By early September, wholesale gasoline prices in Russia had risen to a record high. Shortages and rising costs are creating social pressures that the Kremlin cannot ignore. Expert Kurichenko said that if Kyiv maintains the current intensity of attacks, they will likely begin to significantly limit the resources Russia uses to fund its campaign in Ukraine. Russia relies heavily on oil and gas revenues to maintain military operations and attract volunteers to enlist for the war in Ukraine. The Russian military needs to maintain a stable supply of personnel to overwhelm Ukrainian defensive lines, as attacks on Ukraine's fortified strongholds will result in heavy losses. Therefore, to maintain troop numbers, Moscow must offer very high salaries and enlistment bonuses. Disruptions in the oil and gas industry will not immediately affect Russia's wartime economy, but could force President Putin to make difficult decisions. Since the war broke out more than 3 years ago, he has always prioritized protecting the Russian people from the negative impacts of the conflict. Mr. Kurichenko assessed that if Ukraine continues its campaign of attacking Russian oil infrastructure, the Kremlin will likely have to consider cutting spending in other areas to fund the military, creating a risk of domestic instability. The ability to strike deep into Russian territory reflects the progress Ukraine has made since 2022 in developing UAVs and long-range missile stockpiles. In the early stages of the conflict, Ukraine had only a few UAVs capable of cross-border attacks. Currently, Kyiv is reportedly producing thousands of long-range UAVs each month and recently launched several domestic cruise missile models carrying much larger warheads, allowing them to significantly intensify their air campaign. The Ukrainian military is also learning and improving tactics with each attack. Russian oil refineries and energy infrastructure are now constantly being targeted, making repairs difficult. Meanwhile, replacement parts must be imported from the West, and they are becoming scarcer than ever due to the sanctions Moscow is facing, according to observers, due to the vast size of the country. Russia's current air defense network cannot cover all areas, and Ukraine is fully exploiting this weakness. Most of Russia's existing air defense systems are deployed in territories along the front lines in Ukraine, leaving few remaining complexes to protect major cities and other high-value targets. While attacking targets deeper and deeper into Russian territory, Kyiv is forcing Moscow to disperse its air defense network over a wider area, creating large gaps that make some targets more vulnerable than ever. Even with a significantly strengthened air defense network, Russia may still struggle to neutralize the threat from airstrikes on oil and gas facilities, with dozens of oil refineries, storage facilities, ports, and thousands of kilometers of pipelines spanning 11 time zones. Fully protecting Russia's energy industry from attacks is an extremely difficult task. Ukrainian officials understand that the current air campaign cannot create a turning point that will change the course of the war. However, they seem to be betting that as Russia's energy industry suffers increasing damage, at some point President Putin will have to reconsider and engage in peace talks with Kyiv. Many Ukrainians also believe that strengthening long-range strike capabilities is a key factor in preventing the risk of a future Russian re-attack if a peace agreement is signed. Expert Kurichenko commented that Russia's vast area makes it a formidable opponent, but this scale also makes it vulnerable to counterattacks from a smaller opponent with a customized arsenal designed for such strike missions.
Former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, one of the richest and most powerful men in Thailand, has been sentenced to a year in prison by the Supreme Court after it was determined that the billionaire had circumvented the law by staying in hospital instead of jail. His original sentence of 8 years for conflict of interest and abuse of power during his time as Prime Minister from 2001 to 2006 was reduced to 1 year after he returned from self-imposed exile in August 2023. He was released on parole in May 2024 after spending time in a VIP ward of the hospital. Since then, he has lived in a high-fenced villa on the outskirts of Bangkok, traveling in a luxury car, and even having a bed. But immediately after the new ruling on 9th He was taken by prison van to Prem Prison in Bangkok after undergoing a medical examination. Kalong Prem is a prison for about 6,500 prisoners, including many famous politicians, businessmen, and arms dealer Victor Butt. Somio's Brooke Saka, an activist and former magazine editor who spent more than 7 years in prison, said, "It was an extremely gloomy life. The first day in prison, I just cried. The atmosphere was always tense. This was not a friendly place at all." A former Thai Ministry of Corrections official who worked in many prisons, including Kong Prem, confirmed the situation. The prison is divided into 11 areas, including an isolation area, an area for prisoners with sentences of over 50 years, and an area for high-risk criminals. All have to sleep on the ground with bamboo blankets in a room that can accommodate up to 25 people. Inmates are usually given only 3 blankets, one to lie on, one to roll up as a pillow, and one to cover themselves. If you're lucky, you might get 4 sheets, but sleeping like that is still torture, said Mr. Somios. The food in prison is so bland it's hard to swallow. But what's worse is the central shower area with a square water tank where inmates bathe naked. Mr. Somios warned that shower time is always dirty and there is a risk of being assaulted or even murdered. Just a small fight can escalate into violence. Inmates can go out during the day to meet relatives or lawyers, but tension is always present. Though with a sensitive political profile, Mr. Thak Xin is said to be able to face confrontation from fellow inmates or drug dealers and families of victims of the fierce anti-drug campaign. On the contrary, he can also quickly become a hot name sommed in Thai prisons, referring to a big shot who is protected and respected by other inmates thanks to his influence and money. How long he will actually serve remains unclear, though, as the law allows for detention outside the prison as well as house arrest. For those who have been detained at Klong Prem, Thin's fall is a stark reminder of the harsh price he has to pay. Somio said he lost his freedom, his comfort, his political career, and his reputation. He has had to learn to accept those losses.
On September 11th, Thailand's acting Deputy Defense Minister, General Natphon Amphanis, said that concerns about plans to reopen some border crossings between Thailand and Cambodia had eased, according to the Bang newspaper. However, Mr. Natphon also stressed that more steps were needed before the crossings could be reopened and that Thailand would consider Cambodia's commitment to other issues. General Natphon and his Cambodian counterpart, General The, agreed during a meeting of the Joint Border Committee of the two countries in Cambodia's Koh Kong province on September 10th that the two countries should consider reopening a border crossing starting in Sant Uri and Chat provinces. These two eastern provinces are considered areas with a lower risk of conflict. The areas with the highest risk are Buram, Surin, Shisikat, and Ubin Rathanai. The results surprised the people and even some senior military leaders as border tensions continue and the two countries have not yet reached a permanent ceasefire agreement. General Manas Jun, Chief of General Staff of the Thai Army, said that there should be no negotiations on opening the border if Cambodia does not withdraw its troops from the border. Mr. Manat said there was no need to reopen the border as long as Cambodia did not show sincerity towards us. Mr. Bonson PL, commander of the Thai 2nd Military Region, also warned that hastily opening the border could put people at risk and facilitate crime. Meanwhile, the Thai Ministry of Defense explained that the reopening of the border would only cover goods while the movement of people would remain banned until further notice. The Komatham newspaper, which reported on the GBC meeting, also said that the two countries discussed for the first time their land border checkpoints, which have been closed since late September this year due to escalating tensions. This was a proposal put forward by the Japanese side. General Siha of Cambodia said the meeting highlighted the need to return to normalcy in this regard, with a call from Japan for both countries to consider the feasibility of reopening border checkpoints for the movement of goods needed to maintain the region's vital supply chains.
On September 11th, Nick Asia reported that Thailand's new Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul said he was considering reviving a shopping subsidy program that was implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic. In the context of the country's economy facing a number of challenges, such as stagnant consumption and slow recovery of international tourism, the Con Leng program, which roughly translates to one person half, will be relaunched with the government paying half of what people spend at restaurants and retail stores. The program was implemented 5 times between 2020 and 2022, attracting 26 million participants and stimulating spending of more than 170 billion baht, half of which was supported by the state. This time, Finance Minister-designate Exnity Tinatin Propus has proposed raising the support level to 60% for the group of income taxpayers. Mr. Anyutin said he liked the idea and had asked for further study, asserting that Thailand had enough budget to implement it and that reducing the cost of living was the government's top priority. The new government led by the Thai Pride Party is expected to focus on socio-economic issues to achieve a quick political victory 4 months ahead of schedule. The parliament will then be dissolved to prepare for a new election. In the expected cabinet list, Mr. Adutin has chosen mainly businessmen with veteran names such as Mr. Audapal Rapibal, former CEO of state-owned oil and gas group PTT for the position of Energy Minister, and Ms. Shufit Shatumpal, former CEO of Hotel Group Dusani for the position of Commerce Minister. However, observers say measures like lowering are only short-term. Piasak Manason, an expert at Innovest Security, expressed skepticism about the ability to address the fundamental problems of the economy, saying that the program may be more of a political tool than a sustainable development strategy. However, the market has responded positively, with the Thai stock index up 3% since late August, while the baht hit a 4-year high against the US dollar. At the same time, experts warn that the Thai economy will face additional challenges in the second half of 2025 from trade fluctuations and US tariff policies, putting great pressure on the new government. Thailand's tourism industry is recording a strong recovery from the pandemic, with more than 22 million international visitors to the land of golden temples from the beginning of the year to September 7th. According to the Ministry of Tourism and Sports of Thailand, this number of visitors has helped the Thai tourism industry contribute more than 1,037,000 billion baht, equivalent to about $32.6 billion to the national economy. Ms. Nia Tuong, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism and Sports, said that China was the leading market with more than 3.16 million visitors, followed by Malaysia with 3.13 million, India with 1.61 million, Russia with 1.21 million, and South Korea with 1.05 million. In the first week of September alone, Thailand welcomed more than 500,000 international visitors, a slight increase of 0.44% compared to the previous week, with an average of about 72,600 visitors per day. Notably, arrivals from Singapore surged by more than 47% thanks to the school holidays, putting the country in the top 5 markets for the week. India also recorded a nearly 30% increase due to national holidays. Meanwhile, arrivals from Malaysia, South Korea, and China saw a slight decline. The Thai government expects international arrivals to continue to increase in the second week of September thanks to the long holiday in Malaysia and tourism promotion programs, such as the Thailand Tourism and Sports Year 2025. In addition, support measures such as implementing the TM6 entry form and encouraging airlines to increase flight frequencies are also contributing to the increase in international arrivals to Thailand. According to the Tourism Authority of Thailand, TAT, the country aims to welcome 38 million international visitors and achieve a total tourism revenue of 3 trillion baht, equivalent to more than $94 billion in 2025, of which the Asian market alone is expected to contribute about 29 million visitors, with key markets including India, Malaysia, South Korea, Russia, and China.
On September 11th, Nicholas K.H., the legal team of former Philippine President Roder Duarte, sent a notice to the International Criminal Court (ICC), stating that his client is suffering from severe cognitive impairment that affects his memory, mobility, and daily activities. In a 13-page document sent to the ICC's pretrial chamber, Lawyer C asserted that Mr. TT is not healthy enough to participate in the trial, requesting an indefinite postponement of the entire legal process in the case. The lawyer said that the former Philippine president cannot remember events, locations, and even close family members and defense team, making it impossible for Mr. Dutet to fully understand the nature and consequences of the proceedings. Lawyer Chow Man stressed that this condition is unlikely to improve, and that Mr. Duterte cannot contribute to the process of defending himself. He cannot understand the reasons for his detention or make decisions based on a basic understanding of the legal process, Chow Man wrote. He also stressed that the former Philippine president's health did not meet the minimum standard to stand trial. Duterte, 80, is facing charges of crimes against humanity stemming from his controversial drug crackdown while in office. The campaign has been widely criticized by the international community and human rights groups for its high death toll. The ICC had previously postponed a confirmation hearing for Dut, which was scheduled for late September, to consider a request from his defense team. It is unclear when the court will rule on the trial because many details in his medical records have been redacted for sensitive reasons. Dut has always denied the legality of his detention, calling it an act of kidnapping. Declaring a defendant incompetent to stand trial is rare in international courts, even for the elderly. In 2023, the UN War Crimes Tribunal declared genocide suspect Randa Fin Kuga to be mentally ill and unfit to stand trial. However, Kugam was kept in a UN facility in the Netherlands because no country would take him.